morning, everyone. Robin Shea here. It's day 20, the first day of phase 3 for Before the Fork, the 28-day experience. So this is a new beginning. This is a day that we start rolling into the final 2 phases of the program. And I want to take it back to the book itself. Here's my book. As you can see, it is waterlogged and tattered and marked and really used. But it's been my life source. It's been my lifeline, my little Bible through this whole process. So before I go into some of my workbook material with you, I want to go over the story in today's journal pages. And it's the story of Marcus Luttrell. Now, he is the lone survivor. Movie was made about Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor. And I myself probably would have never watched that movie. I'm not a real, that's not something I would have been attracted to, a war movie. But when you're the mother of 4 sons, hi Dwayne. When you're the mother of 4 sons, you end up watching things that you never thought you would watch. So, hi Margie. So the story of Marcus Luttrell is a very historic story of survival and what led him to survival in those critical hours. And he was giving a lecture. My boys are real big fans of Marcus Luttrell, and they've listened to every one of the lectures that they can find on YouTube about just him in his public speaking. And one of the stories that really stuck with me, and it reminded me of our journey together, and that is his actual story from after, if you're familiar with the story of Marcus Luttrell, when he was severely injured, everyone else in his party had already been killed. He had to, well, let me just reference back to the story here. With a shattered body, paralyzed from the waist down, Luttrell used a rock and stretched his arm out as far away from his body as possible and drew a line in the earth. He would then crawl to the line and repeat the process, eventually dragging his broken body 7 miles to safety. Marcus had every reason to quit. His circumstances were an excuse to fail should he have chosen to look in that direction. But rather than finding excuses to quit, he found reasons to live. And with a simple rock, he inched his way out of danger. Every single moment mattered. Every breath directed to life mattered. Every small victory mattered. Life mattered. He didn't think beyond the rock, but the rock saved his life. So we've just spent 19 days in a fight of discovery, reaching our arm out just as far as we could reach it, drawing a line and pulling our body through this arduous process of reinvention. It's not something, once when we're born into this world and we have all of our routines dictated to us, we have our environment that's carving and molding and shaping our lives, and we have very little say in the process up until the time that we decide that it's time for us to start reshaping and remolding what wasn't done the way that we would have chosen it to be done, is the day that we start deciding what our future is going to look like. So phase 1, phase 2 of the Before the Fork system are incredibly committed parts of the program. Now, when we step into phase 3, we're going to take a deep breath for the next 4 days through the 24th. We're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to recognize the habits that have actually formed synaptic connections. So you are going to get as much out of this course as you put in. So during phase 2, if there were moments that you chose not to lean into the difficulty of change, and you chose rather to observe it and then go back to the old you, not leaning into the discomfort, then those synaptic connections are either not made or they're made incredibly weakly. Just they're very weak connections. If, however, you leaned into that discomfort, the unfamiliar, the struggle, the physical discomfort, the emotional discomfort, and you saw it through to the other end. You implored the back of the book. You used the back of the book, the tips, tools, and techniques. You wrote your own. You journaled every day. Then you have a nice synaptic connection to take with you into phase 3. So what we're going to do during phase 3, and what I would like you to do, is make sure that you've printed all of the downloads, because we're going to get into the downloads right now. So you should have this download, and this is all 4 of the phases from Get Real, and that's our discovery phase. That's when we're deciding what nutrition plan we're going to stick with. We're going to safeguard our home, and we're recognizing all of these automatic behaviors that we really didn't even know that we had. Then we stepped into Get Right, and that's when we move into phase 2, and we're saying, okay, this is tough, but I'm going to do this. And you're committed, and we were committed for those 17 days that we were in phase 2. We were super committed. Now we're moving into phase 3, which is Get With It. So in your downloads, I'm going to fast forward here to phase 3 of the downloads, and you have all of these. If anyone is having any problems locating these, just drop me a message, and we will. I'll show you where to go to get them. So you have this page right here. This is a great journal page. It's the first journal page with phase 3. Get With It. It says, I'm packed and ready. I'm on my way. You're ready for training wheels as you're learning the new skills, but moving very slowly. So you should still be needing to engage that prefrontal cortex, your conscious thinking, because these behaviors that we have practiced in phase 2, hi Carla, they're not yet moved into the hindbrain, which is where they become automatic. So they're still just kind of, they're just kind of up here, but they're very light and they're very ginger, so we have to take care of them. You know what you need to do to change. And although this is new and foreign, you're trying your best. So through this step, you will begin implementing new processes in your life to promote growth and change. So remember when I told you that 95% of the time we're operating from our hindbrain and only 5% is where we're actually engaging our forebrain? During this phase 3 part of the program, what we're going to be doing is observing the behaviors that you've been practicing. What has stuck? What is weak? What needs to be strengthened? And you're going to go back to your journal pages. You're going to look at what you wrote yourself. What tips and tools did you put in place that you can strengthen? Can you expand on them? So this is kind of a combination of active practice. You know what to do, but we're also going to be refining all of the practices. So I try to give y'all a story to relate things, and I'm going to relate this to football. So there's a period of practice, and I just know this because all but one of my children played football, where the coach introduces new plays. That's phase 2. So a lot of time is spent studying the plays, practicing the plays, failing, getting it right a couple times, but failing more times than you're getting it right. And then in phase 3 is then when the coach says, okay, we're not introducing any more plays. We have the playbook. Now we're going to practice the plays that we know, and we're going to get better at them and better at them and better at them. So during phase 3, we're not introducing any more skills. We're going to take the skills that we've cultivated, and we're going to focus on them, and we're going to refine them, and we're going to lean into them, and we're going to find their weaknesses. We're going to find their strengths. A great example was the one I gave you yesterday about my girlfriend calling and canceling on me for hot yoga, and I bailed out. Accountability. That is one of my strengths. If I can lean into being the leader of something, meeting someone, I would never let them down. So that is instrumental, especially in something like hot yoga. There's other areas of my life that I need no self-starting. Lifting weights. I need no self-starting there. I love to go to the weight room, but I'm not a super early riser. So getting up at 5 a.m. Is a challenge for me. I mean, it's not something that I don't just spring out of bed. So having that accountability partner there is huge for me. Another thing that really works for any of my nutrition when I'm trying to take a couple of pounds off, one thing that is so effective for me is cutting my nutrition off, not eating and fasting from about 6 p.m. in the evening until my breakfast time at 7 o'clock in the morning or whenever that happens to be. So leaving those evening hours where I start my fast at dinner, which I try to make before 6 o'clock, I see great, my body responds so well to that. And I can lose, 3, 4, even 5 pounds in the course of about 2 weeks if I stick to that simple regimen. Hi, Lindsay. So I need to put things in practice to where I'm making dinner a little bit earlier than usual and preparing my mind to embrace those fasting hours in the evenings. So during phase 3, we are only looking at the skills that we have already developed, and we are refining those skills. We're seeing what stuck the strongest, what needs a little help, and you're going to also journal all of this. Use those journal pages. They are truly your roadmap. If you don't take time to fill out those journal pages, it's like going on a hike in the woods and every now and then finding your way out. Hi, Teresa. But never bothering to write markers in the woods. You're not leaving a bread trail. You're just going into the same woods every day, hoping that you can navigate and find your way out. Well, when you write your journal pages, now you're bringing with you into the woods, into the forest, a map that is going to help you get your bearings every step of the way. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of taking time to commit to those journal pages. Both the morning practice and the evening practice are so very, very important. And I hope that not only have they become important to you for guidance, but they've become important to you to allow your heart space to expand so that this becomes about more than just curbing your nutrition or rewriting your nutritional program in your mind. I hope that you see the journaling allows your heart space to just expand and you communicate on an entirely different level. I hear some little feet tromping down the stairs. Rowdy's getting ready to go get his wisdom teeth out, so I think he's going to have a big breakfast before we head that way.
Can't eat anything.
So one other thing I wanted to mention to y'all before I move on today is I adopted the slow carb. And so we've been doing this 20 days now. Hang on just a moment. Rowd. No. Scram. Sam, scram. So I did the slow carb, and I've been really committed to the slow carb. I've done really well on it. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew that it was going to be a challenge. And I'm not a big get on the scale. I really kind of go by my clothes, and I did get on the scale today. And in the 20 days, it's been about a 6-pound reduction, which I am thrilled with because it did feel, on a scale of 1 to 10, the difficulty was about a 6. So I'm good. This is really proving to be something that I feel really, really good about. So I'm looking forward to the next 9 days, since we go through the end of the 28th. I'm really looking forward to this next little tranche with it. I'm going to tighten it up even more and lean into some of the things that I felt were a little bit more difficult. So phase 3, you kind of know where we're sitting. Don't pile anything else on top of you. Just start refining what we've already introduced. Start refining all of the practices that you've already introduced. And just know that that is enough. That is enough. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that I want you to stop challenging yourself. None of that. It just means that I want you to, rather than continuing to canvas for new challenges, I want you to you've already ran through just about every scenario you can run through in these 20 days. So I don't want you to look for new challenges. I just want you to rest in the daily challenges that you've already identified and work on the skills that you've already outlined in your journal pages and the skills that are in the back of the book. So the next 4 days, it's all about refinement. It's about executing better and better and better. And I'm going to be so excited when the first person posts on the page that you felt the shift from phase 1, which is just a constant canvassing, to phase 2, which is constant canvassing of your life, to phase 3, which is, oh, there's the habit. I felt it. I felt it move. And when you feel that, I want you to shout out. I want you to write it down, because that is your indicator. We need those indicators. And that right there is such a beautiful indicator that all of the effort in phase 2 is moving into phase 3. And there it is. There's that synaptic connection. You felt the habit forming, and now you just have to lean into it deeper, lean into it deeper. And the deeper you lean into it, the harder you lean into it, the deeper the rut becomes. And of course, okay, I'm going to give y'all a little bit of neuroscience. This will kind of be fun, and this will be a fun way to wrap it up. So each synaptic connection has glue. So each habit in your mind has a little layer of glue that runs over the top of it, and that's what keeps that habit in place. It keeps it glued down, it keeps that rut deep, and it keeps that habit nice and solid. Well, the glue that is used is a finite glue, meaning that there's only so much glue to go around to create these habits in your mind. So when you make a new synaptic connection, so let's say here you have one, how can you see? Okay, here you have one connection, and right next to it you have the old habit, right here is the new habit. So when the new habit is laid, and you're moving from phase 2 to phase 3, this new habit steals some glue from the old habit. Steals some glue and it puts it over. It says, you know what, I'm going to take some of that because I want to do this again. Okay, so it steals some of that glue. You lean into it a little more, it's going to steal a little bit more of that glue and lay it down. You keep on leaning into it, it's going to keep on stealing it and keep on stealing it. So, whichever synaptic connection ends up with the most glue is the one you're going to lean into the most often. So the heavier the glue, the more that habit is sticking into place. So you want to keep stealing the glue from those old habits as much as you can and glue those new habits down. That's what we're doing in phase 3. We're gluing our habits into place. I hope that makes sense to y'all. So when you feel that for the first time and you recognize that you've got that little fledgling habit and it's just waiting for you to lay the glue on top, give us a shout out. Let us know that you feel it, and you're stealing that glue. And I think that mental image of out with the old, in with the new, you're gluing down that new habit. Okay, I hope that's helpful to y'all. Sure was helpful to me when I realized that that's actually what was going on from a neuroscience perspective. And of course, there's super fancy language to talk about what that glue is called and blah, blah, blah. You know, that's just for another time and another class, I guess. I'm not technically a neuroscientist, although I'm a neuroscience nerd. Love it. Love the language. But I think for this setting and for what we're doing together, it's best if we keep it at a language that is universal. So hopefully that glue analogy will help y'all make it make sense. So I love you all. Have a super blessed day. Congratulations. I'm so excited for each and every one of you. You've made it to phase 3. Not everyone makes it to phase 3. Just remember today to love with your whole heart. We're going to get there one day at a time, and I will be back with you tonight. And please, please give me a shout out on Facebook, on the group page, if you feel those connections starting to take root. Okay, y'all have a blessed day. Be a blessing. Talk to you soon.